perspective, are part of this movement toward privatization. Next thing you know, that they'll be having IPOs for some charter schools, and people with money will start buying them up and controlling them. It gets back to, why is there the impression that charter schools have a monopoly on the understanding of how to teach kids? Doesn't make sense, does it? You see, but that's what's being projected, you see, to gain public support. I have a lot to figure out and to understand in terms of how we can mobilize against that movement, so I'll end it there.
Thank you. Any other panelists? Okay. This one said to the fourth speaker, and I think he's talking about Mr. Khalid Meek, said a president of Muslim Legal Fund. A federal government readily designate terrorist organizations as freedom fighters when their goals align with the U.S. ideological interest. Said, what happens to supporters of an organization that was allowed but become forbidden?
Well, it means acts that were done before they were designated were legal, and those that are done after are illegal. It's a matter of law. There's nothing more to it. And yes, it's political, and yes, it is. Both sides have freedom fighter arguments for whatever issues that they disagreed on, and the U.S. will pick one and demonize the other and tell you that this one is against public policy and it's a terrorist organization. And you should know that the designation process, there are levels in the judicial system of the amount of evidence necessary to obtain a verdict. You have the preponderance of evidence, or you have guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and there's measures in a courtroom that have to be met depending on the type of case that you're presented with. Well, to put somebody on the list, it just takes probable cause. I mean, it is no measure. It's the discretion of the president for an executive order, or the State Department, or the Treasury. But basically, they have to meet the lowest threshold of any judicial process to be put on the list, and there's no meaningful way to get off once you're there. So if a terrorist organization wanted to amend its ways and tell you, okay, I'm changed, I'm different, I no longer want to do this, I'd like to be taken off the list, I'm going to do the best I can to be as great as I can, you can't get off the list. And nobody can work with you even if you start proclaiming that. So nobody can help you attain that goal. So it is either kill them or convict them.
I'd like to add to that, it's even worse than that, because not only is there not a meaningful substantive standard, it's basically subjective discretion that you put on the list. But even once you're on the list, that has tainted our whole approach to law. That level of subjective discretion means that, for example, the Iranian quote-unquote terrorist organization on the list, the people, including Frank Townsend from Dallas, the former Homeland Security advisor to Bush, Rudy Giuliani, you know who he was, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, and then, Tom Reyes, the former Homeland Security secretary. They all went to Paris to speak at a rally for this group. It's a terrorist-designated group. MEK, yeah. And yet, because they are, aligned with the powers that be, it's just they're following the same material support as the organizations, the peace organizations that were arrested in various states of the U.S. last September. They're not being prosecuted, and the reason is that you've moved away from the rule of law. Basically, you're in the sort of situation you have with the dictator in the Middle Eastern countries or North Africa, where it's just fiat. And that's why we have to get away from this and back to the rule of law.
You'll see something. Another thing is that what it does is it creates a certain psychological impact on people that leads to frustration, that leads to violence. And I think that people do not, people with power, they would rather deal with violent people rather than non-violent people. And that's one of the points that Dr. King made in one of his speeches, he made that very point, you see, that they would rather deal with a few people carrying guns than they would with a mass of people.
Thank you. They said I can only ask one last question, and this will be on immigration. Said, again, it's to the panelists. They said, how do you react to the contention that undocumented labor is prohibiting unionization and living wage of the American workforce by providing a constant supply of laborers willing to work for less than living wage, without workers' protection and without any cross-cultural solidarity that union provides?
You know, immigrant workers don't want to work for less. And they don't want to work without protections. And they want to become union members, because I used to work for a union and we organized janitors. So, you know, it's the question is not that this is what they want. I think that the situation is what people find themselves in when they come to this country. One, they're immediately isolated. The only jobs they can get, because they don't have any other way to get jobs, are jobs that pay less, and at times jobs are paid under the table. And if they have no recourse or places they can go to receive information or to know who to go to, then they really don't know how to defend those rights. I mean, you find yourself in a place when you first come here of a place that's completely different, without a community to support you when you've had a community in the past, without knowing the language, and being really, subject to the employer that you have. And if that employer tells you, well, this is all I'm going to pay you, otherwise you can go and find somewhere else, especially in a time like this, people are going to work for that. So in order to resolve this issue and build that solidarity with immigrant workers, is to bring them out of the shadows. And how we bring them out of the shadows is by allowing them, one, to come here legally in the first place, and not put so many walls, legal walls as well as physical walls for people to come here who want to come here. And those who are already here, to provide a path to become citizens down the line. Because they've already been here for so many years, they have families here, they don't want to go away. They're not necessarily going to go back to their country they come from. Now, I wanted to say that, we know that we've been working really hard to organize immigrant communities. And we have an organizing project that talks about the United States Constitution and teaching them about what the Constitution says. It talks about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and how we need to work and how we need to embody that and work towards that. And when people realize that they actually can fight for those rights, that maybe they're treated right now as third-class citizens, then they start fighting for those rights. And we know that in this legislature, maybe we're not going to defeat these bills. We know some of these are going to get through. And it's really frustrating because because they don't want to listen to this group of people because they are immigrants or they're undocumented. But this is the beginning of something that we're going to see down the line. People are going to be coming and they're going to be reclaiming those rights. And they're going to come forward. And if we do need to build those bridges. And I think it's those of us who know and who can help to do that have that responsibility to do it.
I just want to say a special thank you to the unions who have supported comprehensive immigration reform. There's a reason why we had almost 500,000 people march in 2006 in downtown Dallas, the largest march in the history of Texas, because we had a coalition of folks that included a lot of union members. Union members know that these people work jobs that most people don't want to work at, and that when these people finally do get their comprehensive immigration reform passed and they get a pathway to citizenship, they're seeing future union members too. So I just want to say a special shout out to all the union members. I myself am union, and I think it's important that we stick together We know who the true evil is, and having these people try to pit one against the other is not going to work anymore. Because we're intelligent, we know the facts on the ground, and it's important to work together.
The second half of that question, and I'm just going to be short and for both of you to answer, he said, should employers and property owners not be punished for going outside the law to providing work for individuals that have not been approved to work and live in the U.S.? Isn't it America's choice who gets to live and work in the U.S.? Just short and brief.
I mean, again, you know, I think we're looking at the problem just very small scope. The problem is that there is no legal way for people to come here if they want to come here to work. If you talk to immigrant workers, the reason why they're here and they stay here longer is because they have no way to go back and be able to come back for seasonal work. You know, and so therefore you have a lot of families who are now formed, who have been established here and who need to become legalized. And once you provide an opportunity for them to become legalized, then those issues are going to go away.
Please give yourselves a round of applause. I thank you all very much for coming out, and please, the knowledge you acquire here today, whether you're in agreement or disagree, please share it with so many others and share information about the Dallas Peace Center, and the website is www.dallaspeacecenter.org. Thank you again for coming out.
If you are not on our weekly email, there is a portion for you to do so on your brochure. You're going to want to get action alerts on how you can make a difference. Make certain that you join our weekly email. Thank you.